Hi, this is Michelle with Simply Scape Handmade, and today we're going to take our pieced strip sections and cut them into blocks for our spring picnic quilt. The first thing that we want to look at is that we have our sections. We should have 4 sections that have 5 strips across. What I've done is I've pressed each of them with the iron, with a steam iron. They're all pieced. I've made sure that my sides, my back seam allowances are going the right direction. And what you want to do when you first get started is make sure you have everything with you. I'm using a basic self-healing cutting mat. If you do not have one, I encourage you to protect your work surface. If you're going to use a rotary cutter, you need a self-healing cutting mat. I have here a rotary cutter. They're available at your local fabric store. They're very convenient for cutting and squaring up quilt pieces. And I have just a basic quilting ruler. This ruler happens to be a 2-inch ruler, and as you can tell, it's clear. I like that because when I lay it down, I can use the lines on the ruler to line up with the lines on my cutting mat, and that works very well for me. If you don't have the tools to do a rotary cutting, you can simply measure and mark it with pencil and cut with regular scissors. Use what you have. Don't go out and buy something if you're not sure it's going to be worth the investment. When you first get started with your pieces, you'll notice that there are uneven ends and there are selvaged ends. So for example, when we look at this piece, you can tell that the strips had a little discrepancy in their length. And what we're going to do is trim that off. So the first thing that I do when I get ready to sit down is I trim away those selvages and get rid of them. We don't need them anymore. So we line up our fabric against the straight line of one line on this mat, and then I just push it forward. And on the edge we cut a clean straight line, lining up our ruler with the lines that are on here, and that gives us a nice clean right angle to work from. Now, the key to this quilt piece is to square up a square. So when I measured my strip this way, it measured 10.5 inches. For this to be a quilt square, then we are going to want it to be 10.5 inches by 10.5 inches. So, knowing that, I'll move that out of the way. I start with my edge and I just work my way over. This is a 1/2 inch, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there's my half right there. I line up the lines on my ruler with the lines on my cutting mat so that I have 10.5 this way and 10.5 this direction. And then I simply apply pressure and run my ruler across. And then I come out with a nice even. Now you want to check and make sure. Sometimes the strips are not exactly straight, so we want to make sure to go the other direction and measure to see, are we at 10.5 by 10.5? And this one comes out correctly. And what we're going to do is just make a stack in the corner and continue working until all 4 of our strips are in 10.5 by 10.5 inch squares. When you get to the end, you will have a scrap piece about maybe 2 or 3 inches long left over. Now, you can throw those in a scrap bin and get rid of them, or we can use them later in the project on the back, and we'll talk about that when we get to the back of the quilt. A lot of times my end pieces, if they're a good inch or 2, I'll put them in a border on the outside by adding other fabric, or you can make a pretty decorative strip along the back of the quilt that ties the front and the back together. I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to go cut the rest of my blocks in preparation for laying the strips out.